In my 35 years on the bench here in Providence, Rhode Island, I've seen thousands of people walk through those courtroom doors, some guilty, some innocent, all human. But when I looked up from the docket that Tuesday morning and saw a 92-year-old man being helped through the entrance by a woman I assumed was his daughter, I felt something shift in my chest. He wore a faded Navy veteran's cap, and even from across the room I could see his hands trembling on the walker. My father came to this country with nothing, worked every day of his life, and taught me that dignity doesn't fade with age. This man had that same dignity written all over him, and he was about to appear before me for what the paperwork said was an unpaid parking ticket. What happened next? Well, it reminded me why I still do this job after all these years. If this story touches your heart the way it touched mine, I want you to hit that like button and subscribe to see more moments from my courtroom where justice meets compassion. The bailiff called the case. Thomas Mitchell, parking violation, unpaid fine. I watched as the daughter helped her father approach the bench. Each step looked like it cost him effort, but he refused to look defeated. I've learned something in all my years doing this. You can see a person's character in how they carry themselves when life gets hard. This man stood as straight as his 92-year-old spine would allow. "Mr. Mitchell," I said gently, "please sit down. Make yourself comfortable." He lowered himself into the chair slowly, and his daughter stood beside him, her hand on his shoulder. "Thank you, Your Honor," he said, and his voice had that quality I recognized immediately. The greatest generation. They don't make excuses. They don't complain. They just show up and face what needs facing. I looked at the ticket. Parking in a handicapped spot without proper credentials. $40, unpaid for 4 months, now with late fees bringing it to $115. "Mr. Mitchell," I began, "it says here you parked in a handicapped space at the CVS on Smith Street back in October. Do you remember this?" He nodded slowly. "Yes, sir, I do." I leaned forward. "Let me ask you something. Do you have a handicapped placard?" His daughter spoke up, her voice tight. "Your Honor, if I may explain—" I held up my hand gently. "In a moment, sweetheart. I want to hear from your father first. Mr. Mitchell, do you have the placard?" He met my eyes directly. "I did, Your Honor. Had it for 3 years, but I let it expire. My mistake, my fault entirely." I sat back. Something wasn't adding up. A man with a walker, clearly disabled, lets his handicapped placard expire and then parks in a handicapped spot anyway. "Why did you let it expire?" I asked. He was quiet for a moment. "Money got tight, Your Honor. The renewal fee, the doctor's appointment to get the signature, the copay. It all adds up when you're on a fixed income." I felt that familiar weight settling on my shoulders, the weight of understanding that the system sometimes punishes people for being poor. "How much was the renewal?" I asked, though I already suspected the answer would break my heart. $60 total, sir, between the fee and the doctor visit." He paused. I chose groceries instead. "Let me tell you something, my friends. This is why I can't just look at a piece of paper and make a decision. Behind every violation, every ticket, every person who appears before me, there's a story. And my job, the way I see it, isn't just to enforce the law, it's to understand the human being standing before me. If you believe justice should come with compassion, leave a comment below telling me about a time someone showed you mercy when you needed it most." "Mr. Mitchell," I said carefully, "I see you served in World War II. Navy?" His face changed just slightly. Pride broke through the worry. "Yes, sir. Pacific Theater. Torpedoman 3rd Class. USS Indianapolis." I stopped breathing for a moment. Inspector Quinn, standing to my left, straightened. Everyone in that courtroom who knew anything about history felt it. The USS Indianapolis, the ship that delivered components for the atomic bomb, then was torpedoed by a Japanese submarine. Most of the crew went into the water. Only 316 men survived out of 196. 4 days in the ocean. Shark attacks, dehydration, madness. It remains the worst naval disaster in United States history. "Mr. Mitchell," I said quietly, "you were on the Indianapolis?" He nodded. "Survived the sinking, Your Honor. 4 days in the water before they found us. Lost a lot of good friends." His daughter's hand tightened on his shoulder, and I could see tears forming in her eyes. I had to pause for a moment. In my courtroom, I've met heroes, and I've met people who made mistakes, and sometimes they're the same person. But sitting before me was a man who had given everything for his country, who had survived hell itself, and now in his 92nd year, he was choosing between a handicapped placard and groceries. "What am I going to do with you?" I said softly, and I meant it as a question to myself, as much as to him. I looked at the daughter. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Catherine, Your Honor. Katie." "Katie, tell me what's going on. Help me understand the full picture here." She took a breath. "Dad lives alone. Mom passed 3 years ago. He's independent, stubborn as they come, won't move in with me even though I've begged him. He gets by on Social Security and a small Navy pension. Between his medications, the house expenses, food, there's nothing left over. I help when I can, but I have 3 kids in school and my husband's hours got cut. She looked at her father with such love it made my throat tight. He didn't tell me the placard expired, didn't tell me about the ticket. I found it last week hidden in a drawer. He was trying to figure out how to pay it without asking for help. This is what kills me. This man, who jumped into the Pacific Ocean when his ship was torpedoed, who watched his friends die, who served his country with honor, was hiding a parking ticket because he didn't want to burden his daughter. "Mr. Mitchell," I said, "why didn't you tell Katie?" He looked at me with eyes that had seen too much. "Your Honor, I raised her to stand on her own 2 feet. What kind of father asks his children for money? She's got her own family to worry about. I made the decision to park there. I knew the placard was expired. I just needed to pick up my heart medication and the walk from the regular spaces. It's too far now. I thought I'd be quick. 15 minutes. That's all I needed. Before I tell you what I decided to do, I need you to share this video with someone who needs to see that there are still good people in this world trying to do the right thing. Hit that share button right now." I looked at Inspector Quinn. He was blinking rapidly. In all our years working together, I'd learned to read his face. He was thinking the same thing I was. I looked at the prosecutor, a young woman named Sarah Chen, who'd only been in my courtroom for 6 months. "Counselor," I said, "what's the state's position?" She stood, and I could see she was struggling. "Your Honor, Mr. Mitchell did violate the parking ordinance. However, given the circumstances and his service record, the state would not object to a reduction in the fine." She sat down quickly, and I could tell she wanted me to do more than just reduce it. "Mr. Mitchell," I said, "I've been doing this for 35 years. I've seen every excuse, every story, every reason people give for why they broke the law. Some of them are true, some of them aren't, but I'll tell you what I know after all this time. I know the difference between someone trying to game the system and someone just trying to survive. You're not here because you're trying to get away with something. You're here because you needed your medication and your body, which served this country and paid a price I can't even imagine, couldn't make the walk from the back of the parking lot." I paused. "Am I right?" He nodded. "Yes, sir. That's exactly right." I thought of my own father. He came to America from Italy with nothing, worked in construction until his hands were gnarled and his back was bent. He never asked for help, never wanted charity, just wanted to provide for his family with dignity. I saw that same pride in Thomas Mitchell. "Here's what bothers me," I continued. "You saved $60 by not renewing your placard. Now you owe $115. That's not mathematics that helps anybody. And I'm sitting here thinking, what kind of country asks a man who survived the USS Indianapolis to choose between food and a parking permit?" The courtroom was absolutely silent. I could hear someone crying softly in the gallery. "Katie," I said, "has your father gotten his handicap placard renewed since you found out?" She shook her head. "Not yet, Your Honor. I made him an appointment for next month. I'm paying for it. He tried to argue, but I told him I'd drag him there myself." I smiled despite myself. "Good. Family takes care of family. That's how it should be. My father taught me that." I looked back at Mr. Mitchell. "Let me ask you something. If I dismiss this ticket, are you going to park in handicapped spots without a proper placard?" He looked horrified. "Absolutely not, Your Honor. Never again. I made a mistake and I take full responsibility. It won't happen again." But then Katie said something I didn't expect. "Your Honor, there's something else." I waited. She reached into her purse and pulled out a piece of paper. "I brought this because I thought it might matter. Last month, Dad was at the grocery store and saw a young mother crying in the parking lot. Her card was declined. She had 2 little kids with her. Dad bought her groceries, $73 worth. He didn't know I found out, but the store manager is my neighbor. He told me because he was so moved by it. She handed me the receipt she'd gotten from the manager. That's why he couldn't pay the parking ticket. He gave away the money he'd set aside for it." I stared at the receipt. My vision blurred for just a second. This man who couldn't afford to renew his handicapped placard, who was being cited for a parking violation, had given $73 to a stranger in need. "Mr. Mitchell," I said, and my voice came out rougher than I intended, "is this true?" He looked embarrassed. "She needed it more than I did, Your Honor. Those babies were hungry. What was I supposed to do? Just walk away? What was he supposed to do?" God bless you, Mr. Mitchell. God bless you. If you're not subscribed to this channel yet, do it now, because these are the stories that remind us what really matters in life. Click that subscribe button. I took off my glasses and cleaned them, buying myself a moment to compose myself. When I put them back on, I looked at this 92-year-old veteran, this man who had given everything, who was still giving everything, and I knew exactly what I had to do. Mr. Mitchell, I'm going to tell you how I see this. You violated the parking ordinance. That's a fact. But I'm also looking at a man who served his country with distinction, who survived one of the worst naval disasters in our history, who's trying to live independently with dignity, and who still, even when money is tight, helps strangers in need. You know what that tells me? That tells me you're a good man who made a decision based on necessity, not convenience. I picked up my pen. I'm dismissing this ticket. The fine is vacated. You don't owe the city anything. Katie gasped. Mr. Mitchell's eyes went wide. Your Honor, I held up my hand. I'm not finished. Inspector Quinn, do we still have that fund? The one for veterans? Quinn nodded immediately. We do, Your Honor. Several years ago, after a few cases like this, I'd worked with some local veterans organizations to create a small emergency fund for veterans who appeared in my court facing financial hardship. It wasn't much, but it helped. I want you to coordinate with Katie and make sure Mr. Mitchell's handicap placard gets renewed immediately. The fund will cover all costs: doctor visit, copay, renewal fee, whatever it takes. Mr. Mitchell was shaking his head. Your Honor, I can't accept charity. I didn't come here for a handout. This is what I love about these men and women. Even in need, they have pride. Mr. Mitchell, let me tell you something. It's not charity. You earned this. You earned this 75 years ago when you put on that uniform. You earned it when you went into that water and survived. You earned it every day you've lived with dignity and helped others even when you couldn't afford to help yourself. This isn't a handout. This is a country taking care of a man who took care of it when it mattered most. Will you let us do that? He was crying now, silently, tears running down his weathered face. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. But I wasn't done. Something had been bothering me. Katie, you said your father's on several medications? She nodded. 7 different prescriptions, Your Honor. Heart medication, blood pressure, pain management from old injuries. And how much does that cost monthly? Her face tightened. After Medicare, about $300, sometimes more. $300 on a fixed income. I looked at Inspector Quinn again. Get me the contact information for the Veterans Administration Benefits Office. Mr. Mitchell might be eligible for additional assistance he's not receiving. Quinn was already writing. On it, Your Honor. I leaned forward, looking directly at Thomas Mitchell. Sir, I want you to do something for me. I want you to let people help you. I know you were raised to be independent. I know asking for help feels like weakness. My father was the same way. But you know what I learned? Accepting help isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's understanding that we're all connected, that we all need each other. You helped that young mother in the grocery store. You let Katie help you with the placard. Now let your country help you with the benefits you're entitled to. Can you do that? He nodded, unable to speak. The courtroom erupted in applause. I let it go for a moment before gently tapping my gavel. People were standing. I saw several veterans in the gallery saluting. Mr. Mitchell, still seated, raised a shaking hand to return the salute. My bailiff was crying. The prosecutor was crying. Inspector Quinn walked over to Katie and was already making arrangements. I watched it all unfold and thought, this is why I do this job, not for the power, not for the authority, for these moments when the law and mercy meet, when justice looks like compassion, when a courtroom becomes a place of healing instead of just punishment. Mr. Mitchell, I said, after the applause died down, I want you to take care of yourself. Use that placard when you get it, ask for help when you need it, and keep being the man you are, because this world needs more people like you. He stood slowly, with Katie's help, and he looked at me with such gratitude I had to look away for a second. Your Honor, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just promise me you'll let Inspector Quinn help you get those VA benefits sorted out. I promise, sir. Good. God bless you. Take care of yourself. As they turned to leave, Mr. Mitchell paused and turned back. Your Honor, may I say something? Of course. He stood as straight as he could. In all my years, in everything I've been through, I've learned that a country is only as good as how it treats people when they're down. Thank you for treating me like I still matter. I had to clear my throat. Mr. Mitchell, you do matter. You've always mattered. Don't ever forget that. After they left, I sat there for a long moment before calling the next case. I could feel the energy in that courtroom had shifted. People weren't just there for traffic tickets anymore. They'd witnessed something that reminded them of what we can be at our best. I've been asked many times over the years why I do this, why I take so much time with each person, why I don't just process cases like an assembly line. This is why. Because behind every case is a human being. Behind every violation is a story. And sometimes, if you take the time to listen, you discover that the person standing before you isn't a criminal. They're a hero who just needs someone to see them. If this story moved you, I want you to do something for me. Leave a comment telling me about a veteran in your life who deserves deserves recognition. Share their story. Let's make sure we remember these men and women while they're still here to know they're appreciated. 3 weeks later, Inspector Quinn came into my chambers with an update. Thomas Mitchell's handicapped placard had been renewed. More importantly, Quinn had connected him with a Veterans Administration benefits counselor, and it turned out Mr. Mitchell was eligible for additional benefits he'd never applied for, benefits that would increase his monthly income by almost $400. He hadn't known, he'd never asked, he'd just quietly gone without. The counselor also connected him with a program that would reduce his prescription costs to almost nothing. Katie had called Quinn in tears, grateful, saying her father could finally stop choosing between medicine and food. But here's the part that really got me. 2 weeks after his court appearance, Mr. Mitchell came back to the courthouse, not for another citation. He just wanted to say thank you again. He brought me a photograph from 1945 showing him as a young sailor, 19 years old, standing on the deck of the USS Indianapolis weeks before it sank. He'd had it framed. On the back, he'd written, "To Judge Caprio, who reminded me that I still matter. With gratitude, Thomas Mitchell, Torpedoman 3rd Class, USN." That photograph sits in my chambers now, and every time I have a difficult case, every time I'm tired or frustrated, I look at that young sailor's face, and I remember why I do this. You see, my friends, justice isn't just about punishment. It's not just about following the letter of the law. Real justice recognizes that we're all human, that we all struggle, that sometimes good people make mistakes or face impossible choices. Real justice looks at a 92-year-old veteran who parked in a handicapped spot because he couldn't walk far enough to get his heart medication, and it asks, "How can I help?" Not, "How can I punish?" That's the kind of justice I've tried to practice for 35 years, and that's the kind of justice that I believe makes us better as a society. I think about my father, who came here with nothing. I think about what he would say if he could see what I do every day. He'd probably tell me I'm too soft, that I let people off too easy. Then he'd pause, smile that smile he had, and say, "But you got a good heart, son. Use it." So that's what I try to do. I try to treat every person who comes before me the way I'd want to be treated, the way I'd want my father to be treated, the way Thomas Mitchell deserved to be treated. If you made it this far, thank you for taking this journey with me. These stories from my courtroom, they're not just about parking tickets and violations. They're about human dignity. They're about recognizing the hero in the ordinary person. They're about understanding that everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. So be kind, be compassionate, look for ways to help instead of ways to judge. And if you see someone struggling, especially someone who's given so much, reach out, make the difference. Be the person who helps instead of the person who looks away. Subscribe to this channel if you believe in second chances, if you believe in treating people with dignity, if you believe that justice and mercy aren't opposites but partners. Leave a comment and tell me what you would have done in this situation. And share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that there are still good people in this world trying to do the right thing. God bless you all. Take care of each other. And remember, everyone who walks through that courtroom door is someone's father, someone's mother, someone's child. Treat them accordingly.